There Is Good in Him is the Turn Vader to the Light Side deck from Death Star 2. It is a super aggressive deck that wants to use I Feel the Conflict and the Objective to convert Vader, fully depleting your opponent's life force, or just to win the game the old-fashioned way through winning a bunch of battles. You start with Luke Skywalker Rebel Scout V and his lightsaber at Chief Chirpa's hut. Anytime Luke is with an Imperial, he is immediately captured. This flips your objective and hits Darkseid for 2 damage per turn, unless Vader is escorting Luke. The key mechanic of the deck comes from I Feel the Conflict, which makes your opponent stack a card every time you win a battle. Each card stacked adds 3 to your attempts to convert Vader. The 7 side of your objective allows you to shuffle and draw Destiny on each of your turns as long as Vader is escorting Luke. If your total Destiny is over 14, Vader turns to the light side and wins the game outright. What this means is you need to win 3 battles and draw 6, 4 battles and draw 3, 5 battles and automatically succeed. Of course, if you win that many battles, you're probably winning the game anyway. The objective starts the Endor landing platform, Chief Chirpa's hut non-virtual. You can technically start the virtual, but I don't recommend it. Any Death Star 2 Luke, unless you're facing Bring Him Before Me, you'll want to use Luke Skywalker Rebel Scout virtual with his lightsaber, and I Feel the Conflict. A typical build will start Don't Tread on Me virtual to draw a 12-card hand, though 3 effect and even pod racing starts have been popular in the past. In your opening hand, you'll look for Weeza Got a Grand Army and Were You Looking for Me to pull the cards prior to activation and speak with the Jedi Council, or take a seat Young Skywalker if you don't want to shell out for speaks, to get the Jedi Council chamber out. If Darkseid doesn't pull Battle Order or Come Here You Big Coward, you might get a free drain at Chirpa's hut turn 1. Also, if Darkseid deploys an Imperial to the landing platform, you do not activate at Luke's location. This really hurts since your objective adds 2 to activation at Luke's location. That said, it happens less often than you might think. Just give them Luke and either start pinging or start trying to win battles. There's enough activation in the deck, especially starting with a 12-card hand, that you should be fine pretty quickly. In addition to the pullable Boss Nass chambers and Jedi Council chamber, you have the battle planes and one more site. Right now I'm messing with the Lothal Jedi Temple 3-1 location, but you could also use the Ahch-To saddle or Yoda's hut for that slot, depending on personal preference. This is a floating 0, but between your large opening hand, 3PO with his parts showing, and a few other things, you'll find it often enough. You could probably get away cutting this card, but I personally find it worth its slot. In most matchups, you're safe moving Luke to the landing platform turn 1. But if your opponent is playing Destroyer Droids or a deck that can very quickly assemble a pile of dudes on their turn 2, you might think twice. Wounded Warrior can really ruin your day. My favorite matchup is against Bring Him Before Me. People will tell you you're at a disadvantage in this matchup. In my experience, it goes to the player who knows the matchup best. And since There Is Good in Him hasn't been popular for a few years, that's often the There Is Good in Him player. Like many mains matchups, you have to pick your battles. Bring Him is a popular enough deck that you should know what tricks they have up their sleeve and what characters might come down for a counterbeat. I Don't Like Sand can also be key in this matchup since Bring Him has the ability to draw multiple destinies in virtually every battle. The line of play that I go with in this matchup is pretty simple. We fight over the landing platform for a few turns until I force the Dark player to devote a decent amount of resources to that site. Usually this includes Vader, who will escort Luke. I devote a few of my own characters, who hopefully trade with Darkseid characters, and Dark ends up holding the site with 1 or 2 characters backing up Vader. Then I start rebuilding of the battle planes. Make sure you do not deploy the battle planes until you're in that rebuilding stage. This forces the Dark player to either disrupt you with their B team, which you should be able to handle, or let you build up a squad to use Nabran leads to fight over the landing platform some more while still draining 2 per turn. It's not a surefire path to victory. You have to know exactly when to abandon the landing platform, and you can't just throw anybody down at the battle planes, but it's a line of play that's gotten me wins against players much better than me. Against decks that don't play Imperials, you'll often be able to keep Luke at the landing platform, paying 3 to drain 2 all game, while using the rest of your deck to fight over Darkseid's locations. If they do come to the landing platform, you start the game with one of the most powerful characters in the game on table at that location. More or less. Space decks can be rough. Characters like Leia with Blaster, Ahsoka, Lando, or Anakin can act as decent passengers on Han, Chewie, and the Falcon V. If you're going to stand a chance, you need to figure out 2 things. First, you need to know whether Darkseid's deck has any ground at all. Take advantage of any verifies they give up for this. You want to deploy as little as possible and do as much damage as possible, so don't be afraid to pay 3 to drain 1. If they have a small ground package, make sure they can't deploy 3 guys and blow you out, but if they don't have one, spread as wide and as thinly as you can. Every point of damage counts. Next, bide your time and figure out when you want to make your stand in space. You're not going to outright win, but depending on the deck, you may be able to hold a system and drain for free for a few turns, or at least give them a little cat and mouse play. That's all I've got for There Is Good in Him. Thanks for listening, or watching, I guess. Good luck, have fun, and no reverts. The objective starts with the Endor landing platform. Chief I can't say Chief Chirpa. I can't even say it. Chief Chirpa.